A woman's heart can be shattered 1,000 times, but it always holds a secret corner waiting for true love. The March sun beat down on Emily as she walked aimlessly through the streets of Miami Beach, her blue eyes blurred by the tears that insisted on falling after the most brutal humiliation of her life, discovering that her fiancé saw her only as temporary entertainment, disposable like the wilting flowers of an altar that would never be used. 3 weeks later, serving coffee in a small downtown establishment, her hands trembled as she approached the table where a man with penetrating blue eyes was fiddling with his cell phone with the desperation of someone who had lost something far greater than money. A photo of a small child on the screen revealed a pain she recognized as her own loneliness. When their gazes first met, the silence lasted only seconds, but it was enough for both to recognize in the other the same hunger for true love, the same thirst to be seen. Beyond appearances, neither of them knew that their lives were already connected by a secret from the past that would make this encounter not a coincidence, but the fulfillment of a destiny that had waited years to reveal itself. The March sun beat down mercilessly on the streets of Miami Beach as Emily Jones rushed out of the elegant hotel in South Beach, tears mixing with the makeup she had applied so carefully that morning. At 20, with her softly outlined blue eyes and fair skin that contrasted with her wavy brown hair, she never imagined her world would collapse so brutally. "Damn fool, how could you be so naive?" she muttered to herself as she walked aimlessly through the streets of the historic district. Her ex-fiancé, Chad's, words still echoed in her mind like daggers. "Emily, my dear, did you really think I'd marry someone from your background? This was just fun, nothing more." The humiliation had been public, in front of his entire family, wealthy business owners, from Palm Beach. Chad announced he was cancelling the wedding set for next week. Emily, the daughter of a mechanic and a seamstress from a working-class neighborhood, had been discarded like an old dress. Her legs trembled as she sat on the steps of the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens. The engagement ring, simple but representing all her dreams, felt heavy on her right hand. With a sharp movement, she pulled it off her finger and threw it away, watching it disappear among the ancient stones. "What am I going to do now?" she whispered, hugging her knees to her chest. She had left her job at the sewing factory to dedicate herself to wedding preparations. Now, without work, without a fiancé, and with her savings spent on a dress she would never wear, she was completely lost. Her phone vibrated. It was Sarah, her best friend since childhood. Sis, where are you? I saw everything on social media. I'm coming to get you now." 20 minutes later, Sarah arrived in her old focus, her eyes red from crying for her friend. At 22, with long brown hair and always dressed in colorful clothes, Sarah worked as a receptionist at a dental clinic downtown. "Let's go, Em. You're staying at my place until things get better," Sarah said, helping her into the car. "And listen well, you're worth far more than that jerk. One day he'll regret it." During the drive to the Little Havana neighborhood, Emily observed the familiar streets with new eyes. Everything seemed different. Now, the bakeries, the food trucks, the simple homes of her neighbors, none of it had changed, but she felt like a stranger in her own world. "Sarah," she said, her voice breaking, "I really thought he loved me. For 2 years, he made me believe we were equals, that love was enough." "Oh, sis," Sarah sighed, stopping at a red light. "Love should be enough, but some men are born without a heart." That night, in the small house Sarah shared with her mother, Mrs. Rodriguez, a 55-year-old woman with grey hair always pulled back in a bun and hands calloused from so much work as a cleaner, Emily tried to understand how she had been so blind. "Honey," Mrs. Rodriguez said, serving her a steaming bowl of chicken noodle soup, "sometimes life knocks us down to teach us we're stronger than we thought. You're young, beautiful, and smart. This isn't your end. It's your beginning." But Emily could barely swallow the food. The pain in her chest was physical, as if something had broken inside her. Mrs. Rodriguez, I gave him everything. My time, my heart, my dreams. How could I not see it was just a game to him? Because you loved truly, honey. And those who truly love always believe the best in people. The woman gently stroked her hair with maternal tenderness. But now you need to learn to love yourself first. That dawn, lying on the living room sofa, Emily looked at the ceiling, wondering if she would ever be able to trust anyone again. The future she had, a home full of love, children running through the house, a husband who respected her, now seemed an impossible dream. She didn't know that a few miles away, in the luxurious residence of Fisher Island, another heart was also being shattered for completely different reasons. David Miller, at 33, was considered one of Miami's most promising entrepreneurs. Heir to a fortune built in the construction business, he had penetrating blue eyes that contrasted with his impeccably styled black hair. Tall, broad-shouldered, and with a smile that melted hearts, David was what any woman would call perfect. But perfection can be a prison. That same night, he was in his private office, looking at a photo of a 4-year-old child, Metthe, his son. The boy, with fair hair and eyes like his father's, smiled innocently at the camera, unaware that his mother had decided to move to London, taking him away. Isabella, David's ex-wife, had called earlier with the news. David, I've found someone. We're getting married, and Metthe needs stability. I can't keep sharing custody with you. The irony was cruel. David, who had built an empire at 33, who was respected and admired throughout Florida, felt like the poorest man in the world. All his success meant nothing without his son. "Dad's always busy," were the last words Metthe had said, before leaving for London 3 months ago for what was supposed to be just a vacation visit. David poured himself another bourbon, his fourth of the night. His partners, Frank and Mike, always said he had everything: money, power, women throwing themselves at his feet. But what they didn't understand was the emptiness that grew inside him every day. His phone rang. It was Frank. "Bro, shake off this sadness. Tomorrow we have the meeting with the Japanese investors. You're David Miller. You can't let yourself get down like this." "Frank," David replied, his voice tired, "have you ever thought that maybe all this success is worth nothing if you don't have anyone to share it with? Are you crazy? You can have any woman you want. Rich, poor, model, executive. The world is yours." But David hung up the phone without answering. Frank didn't understand. None of them understood. He didn't want just any woman. He wanted someone who loved him for the man he was inside, not for the money he possessed. He wanted a real family. Meanwhile, miles away, Emily finally fell asleep with her face wet with tears, unaware that destiny was preparing an encounter that would change both their lives forever. Have you ever felt like you lost everything that mattered? Emily and David are about to discover that sometimes you have to lose everything to find what's truly worthwhile. In the next chapter, an unexpected encounter amidst the ashes of their broken hearts will change everything. Comment below what city you're watching us from and prepare your heart. This story holds surprises you'd never imagine. 3 weeks had passed since the hotel humiliation, and Emily finally found a temporary job as a waitress at the Ocean Breeze Cafe, a small establishment in downtown Fort Lauderdale, near the Museum of Discovery and Science. The pay was low, but she needed to regain her independence and pride. That April morning, dressed in a simple white blouse and a dark skirt, the required uniform, she was preparing the tables for the lunch rush. Her blue eyes, once always bright, now carried a melancholy she tried to hide behind forced smiles for the customers. "Emily," called Mr. Peterson, the cafe owner, a 60-year-old man with a prominent belly and a grey moustache. "That corner table has been waiting for 10 minutes. Hurry up, it's packed today." She looked at the indicated table and her heart almost stopped. There was a man she immediately recognized from business magazines. David Miller. He wore an impeccable navy blue suit, but his blue eyes seemed lost, as if he were in another world. With slightly Trembling hands, Emily approached. "Good morning, sir. What would you like to order?" David looked up, and for a moment both were silent. There was something in the waitress's clear blue eyes that touched him in an inexplicable way. She was beautiful, yes, but it wasn't just that. There was a sadness there that he recognized, as if he were looking into a mirror. I'm sorry," David stammered, running a hand through his hair. "I was distracted. Can I get a black coffee? And do you recommend anything to eat?" Emily noticed that he seemed genuinely lost, unlike the arrogance she expected from someone in his position. "The house burgers are very good, sir, and Mr. Peterson makes delicious freeze." "Then I'll trust you," David said, and for the first time in weeks he managed a sincere smile. "What's your name?" "Emily," she replied, feeling her face flush slightly. "Emily," he repeated, as if testing the sound. "Beautiful name, very fitting." She moved away to get the order, but she could feel his eyes following her. There was something different about this man. Yes, he was clearly rich and powerful, but his eyes carried the same kind of pain she knew well. When she returned with the coffee and burger, David was looking at his phone, his brow furrowed. On the screen, she could quickly see a photo of a small child. "Sorry again," he said, putting his phone away. "Family issues." "We all have them," Emily replied softly, arranging the dishes on the table. "Sometimes it feels like our problems are bigger than us." David looked at her in surprise. Most people tried to flatter him or were intimidated by his presence, but she spoke to him as if he were a normal person. "You speak like someone who knows what they're talking about," he said, cutting into the burger. Emily hesitated. She didn't usually talk about her personal life with customers. "Let's just say I recently learned that people aren't always who we think they are." "Ah," David nodded. "Understanding. Broken heart, among other things." She gave a sad smile. "And you, sir?" "Sorry, I shouldn't have asked." "No, it's fine." David put down his fork and looked directly at her. "My son. His mother took him to London. I'm trying to get him back, but it's complicated." Emily felt her heart ache. She had lost an unfaithful fiancé, but he had lost a son. "I'm so sorry. It must be terrible to be away from him." "It's like a part of me has been ripped out," David confessed, surprising himself with his own honesty. He never talked about Matthew with strangers. "He's 4 years old. 3 months have felt like 3 years. I'm sure you'll find a way to bring him back," Emily said sincerely. "A father who loves his son so much always finds a way." David studied her for a long moment. There was something comforting in her voice, a genuineness he hadn't found in a long time. "Thank you. It's been a while since someone said that to me and actually believed it." At that moment, Mr. Peterson shouted from the kitchen, "Emily, table 4 is waiting." "Excuse me," she said, moving away quickly. David remained in the cafe for another hour, ordering a second coffee just so he could watch her work. Emily attended the tables efficiently and kindly, but he could tell she was fighting something. There were moments when she stopped, took a deep breath, as if she were composing herself. When he finally got up to leave, David left a generous tip and a business card under the cup. On the back he wrote, "Thank you for the honest conversation, David." Emily found the card and the amount enough to pay a week's rent for her place a few minutes later. Her heart raced. On the one hand, she was grateful for the much-needed financial help. On the other, she felt confused. Why had a man like him been interested in talking to her? That night at Sarah's house, she told her about the encounter. "Are you crazy?" Sarah shouted, almost spilling her soda. "David!" "Miller, sis, that man is one of the richest in Miami, and you said he was normal, more than normal. He was kind, sad, like me." Emily fiddled distractedly with the card. "Sarah, he talked about his son as if he was really suffering." Sarah said, sitting next to her friend, "You've just come out of a relationship that destroyed you. Don't you think you might be confusing gratitude with attraction?" Mrs. Rodriguez, who was listening from the kitchen while preparing some fried chicken, approached. "Honey, Sarah is right to warn you to be careful, but you can't close your heart forever either. Just go slow." The next day, David returned to the cafe, and the next, and the next. He always asked for the corner table, always waited to be served by Emily. Their conversations grew longer and more personal. He told her about Matthew, how the boy loved baseball, how he laughed when David took him for hot dogs at Bayfront Park, how he asked for his dad. Every night before bed, Emily, in turn, began to open up about her shattered dreams, about how she had believed that love would conquer any social difference, about how foolish she felt for having been so naive. "You weren't foolish," David said one Thursday, after she finished telling him about the hotel humiliation. "You were brave. Believing in love always requires courage, courageous or stupid. The difference is subtle sometimes," she replied, cleaning a nearby table. "No, Emily. His attitude was stupid. Any man who has you and discards you is a complete idiot." She stopped cleaning and looked directly at him. There was something in his tone of voice, in the intensity of his blue eyes, that made her heart race. For the first time in weeks, she felt seen, truly seen. "David," she said softly, "why do you keep coming here? There are much better restaurants in Palm Beach." He was silent for a moment, playing with his coffee cup. "Because here, I can just be David, not the heir, not the businessman, not the man who lost custody of his son. Here, talking to you, I remember who I really am." Emily felt something stir in her chest, a mixture of affection, attraction, and fear. Fear of allowing herself to feel again. "And who are you, really?" she asked, quickly sitting in the chair next to his as the cafe was empty. "A man who wants to be a good father, who wants to build something that means more than money, who wants—" he hesitated, looking directly at her, "who wants to find someone who sees him as a person, not as a bank account." The moment was interrupted by the entry of a group of customers, and Emily had to go back to work. But something had changed between them. A connection had formed, fragile still, but real. That night, David drove back to his empty house in Fisher Island, thinking about how Emily had become the best part of his days. For the first time since Matthew had left, he had something to look forward to when he woke up. And Emily, lying on Sarah's sofa, touched the business card, now yellowed from so much handling, allowing herself to dream that maybe, just maybe, true love was still possible. Emily is starting to open her heart again, but is David really different from the other rich men she's known? In the next chapter, an unexpected invitation will put their relationship to the test and reveal if David is capable of seeing beyond social differences. Leave a comment if you believe in second chances in love, and don't forget that a huge surprise is still to come in this story. The invitation arrived late Friday, written on David's company letterhead. "Emily, would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow? I know a quiet place where we can talk." "David," Emily read and reread the note, her heart racing. 2 weeks of daily conversations at the cafe had created an unexpected intimacy between them, but dinner out was a completely different step. "Oh my God," Sarah shouted when she saw the invitation. "Sis, this is an official date. Are you going to accept?" "I don't know, Sarah. What if he wants something I can't give? What if he's like Chad?" The insecurity Emily had carried since the humiliation came back with full force. Mrs. Rodriguez, who was sewing in the living room, looked up. "Honey, you've spent 2 weeks getting to know this man. What does your heart tell you?" Emily thought about their long conversations, the way David spoke of his son with tears in his eyes, how he really listened when she spoke, how he had never tried to impress her with money or power. "My heart says he's different," she admitted, "but my head says to be careful." "Then listen to both," Mrs. Rodriguez advised. "Accept the dinner, but keep your eyes open." On Saturday night, David arrived promptly at 7 to pick her up. Emily had chosen her best dress, a simple yet elegant dark blue one that highlighted her eyes. When she opened the door, she saw David standing next to a black SUV, but he wasn't wearing a suit. Instead, he wore dark jeans and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. "You look beautiful," he said sincerely, opening the car door for her. "Thank you. You look, different too. More relaxed." "That's because I'm not working. Tonight I'm just David, remember?" The chosen restaurant completely surprised her. It wasn't an exclusive place in Palm Beach, but rather the Lighthouse Diner, a family restaurant in the historic district, famous for its home-cooked food and cozy atmosphere. The wooden tables, the walls decorated with local artwork, and the smell of meatloaf made Emily feel at home. "How do you know this place?" she asked, as they sat at a table in the inner patio. "My grandmother used to bring me here when I was a kid," David explained, ordering 2 iced teas. "After my parents died, she raised me. Grandma Emily, yes, just like your name, used to say that expensive food doesn't feed the soul." It was the first time he had mentioned his family. Emily leaned forward, interested. "Your grandmother was also named Emily?" "She was. She passed away 5 years ago." David's eyes saddened. "She was the only person who truly knew me. After she was gone, I got a little lost. I guess that's why I made so many mistakes with Isabella and Matthew." "What kind of mistakes?" Emily asked gently. David sighed, playing with the napkin. "I believed that being a good provider was the same as being a good husband and father. I worked 16 hours a day, traveled constantly. Isabella said she felt married to a ghost. And you didn't realize she was pulling away." "I did, but I thought one more promotion, one more company bought, more money in the bank would solve everything." He shook his head. "When she asked for a divorce, I offered a bigger house, better cars, expensive trips. But what she wanted was attention, presence, true love." Emily felt a pang of empathy. "And now she's with someone who gives her that?" "She is. Charles is a literature professor in London. He earns a fraction of what I do, but he's present. He takes Matthew to the park, helps with homework, has family dinner every night." The pain in David's voice was palpable. "Matthew already calls him Daddy Charles." "David," Emily reached across the table and lightly touched his hand. "You can't change the past, but you can learn from it." He intertwined his fingers with hers, and both felt an electric current. "That's what I'm trying to do. Reevaluate everything. That's why I came back to Metthe, Miami, to the company my family built. That's why I come to your cafe every day." "For me?" she asked, blushing. "For you," he confirmed, looking directly into her eyes. "Emily, you remind me that there's beauty in simple things, an honest conversation, a genuine smile, someone who cares without wanting anything in return." The waiter arrived to take their order. Meatloaf. For him, uti, pot roast. For her, and the conversation flowed naturally to lighter topics. David told funny stories about Matthew, imitating the boy's expressions until he made Emily laugh heartily. She talked about her dreams of studying psychology, about how she wanted to help children from disadvantaged communities. "Why psychology?" David asked, genuinely interested. "Because I know what it's like to feel invisible," she answered honestly. "I grew up being treated as if I wasn't enough. In school, teachers had lower expectations for poor students. At work, we were easily replaceable. With Chad," she stopped, taking a deep breath. "With Chad, you were temporary entertainment," David finished with contained anger. "That jerk." "Exactly. So I want to work with kids who feel that way, to show them they deserve to be seen, respected, loved." David looked at her with growing admiration. "Emily, that's beautiful, and you'll achieve it, I'm sure." "With what money?" She laughed bitterly. "I can barely pay my basic expenses. College is an impossible dream. There are scholarships, financial aid. For people like me, hardly." David was quiet for a moment, clearly thinking about something. Emily noticed and grew apprehensive. She knew that look. It was the same one Chad had when he was about to make some generous offer that would come with hidden expectations. "David," she said cautiously, "what are you thinking?" "Nothing, just admiring your determination." The rest of the dinner passed pleasantly, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that David was hiding something. When he dropped her off at home, the goodnight kiss on her cheek lasted a few seconds longer than necessary, and she felt her heart race. "Thank you for a wonderful evening," she said sincerely. "Thank you. It's been years since I felt so normal." He hesitated. "Emily, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "If I were just David, without the last name, without the money, without the companies, would you want to get to know me better?" The question caught her off guard. She studied him, his honest blue eyes, the affectionate way he spoke of his son, the kindness with which he treated her. "Yes," she answered simply. "I would." The smile he gave her was radiant. "Then that's all that matters." On Monday, when Emily arrived at the cafe, she found Mr. Peterson visibly nervous. "Emily, honey, an envelope arrived for you from the law firm of Smith and Associates." With her heart pounding, she opened the envelope. It was a formal letter stating that she had been awarded a full scholarship for a psychology degree at the University of Miami, sponsored by an anonymous charitable foundation. Emily's legs went weak. She knew exactly who was behind it. At that moment, David entered the cafe, smiling as always, but when he saw the expression on her face, his joy disappeared. "Emily, what's wrong?" She held up the letter, her hands trembling with anger and disappointment. "How dare you? I don't understand." "Don't lie to me," she shouted, making everyone in the cafe look at them. "The scholarship, David, the anonymous foundation. How dare you treat me like charity?" David paled. "Emily, that's not how it—" "Not how what? You thought you could buy me like Chad tried to do? Did you think I'd be another grateful poor girl for your favors?" Tears streamed down her face now. "I really believed you were different, but you rich men are all the same. You think everything can be solved with money. Emily, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain." She tore up the letter and threw the pieces at him. "Keep your charity and don't come back here ever again." David tried to approach, but she recoiled. "Emily, go! Get out!" she screamed. Everyone in the cafe watched in silence. David looked around, saw the judging faces, and left without another word. Emily ran to the bathroom and cried as she hadn't cried since the day of the humiliation with Chad. Once again, she had trusted. Once again, she had been naive. But this time, the pain was different, because this time she had started to fall in love for real. Emily's heart is once again in pieces. But has she misunderstood David's intentions? In the next chapter, the truth behind the scholarship will be revealed, and a shocking discovery about the past will connect their lives in a way neither of them imagined. Comment if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, and get ready because the secret that will change everything is about to be revealed. 3 days passed without David appearing at the cafe. Emily tried to convince herself she was relieved, but the truth was that every time the door opened, her heart raced, expecting to see him walk in. Mr. Peterson noticed her sadness, but respectfully asked no questions. "Honey," he said, late one Wednesday, "you're paler than a ghost. Go home and rest a bit." Emily was putting away her apron when Martha Smith, an elegant woman of about 65, entered the cafe. She wore a simple but well-cut beige dress, grey hair pulled back in a low bun, and carried a leather bag that looked expensive but not ostentatious. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I'm looking for Emily Jones." "That's me," Emily replied, curious. The woman seemed familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had seen her. "May I speak with you? It's about David Miller." Emily's stomach clenched. "I have nothing to say about him." "Please," Martha insisted gently. "Just 5 minutes. It's important." Reluctantly, Emily led her to a corner table. Martha ordered a iced tea and sat in silence for a few moments, as if carefully choosing her words. "I'm Martha Santos," she finally began. "I've worked for David as his executive assistant for 15 years, but before that, I was a social worker." Emily frowned. "I don't understand what that has to do with me." "It has everything to do with it, honey." Martha took an envelope from her bag. "Before I talk about the scholarship, I need to tell you a story about an 8-year-old girl who lost her parents in a car accident. Emily's heart stopped. She knew exactly what accident Martha was talking about. It was December 2011, the woman continued. A young couple was returning from a Christmas party when they were hit by a drunk driver. They left behind a small daughter who went to live with her grandmother. "How do you know this?" Emily whispered, her hands trembling. "Because I was the social worker responsible for your case, Emily. Your grandmother, Mrs. Jones, didn't have the resources to raise you properly. That's when the Miller family intervened." Emily felt the world spin. "What are you saying?" Martha opened the envelope and pulled out several old documents. "David's grandmother, Mrs. Emily Miller, yes, just like your name, created a fund to help orphaned children in the area. You two were the primary beneficiaries. The papers showed records of monthly payments to Mrs. Jones, money for clothes, school supplies, medical appointments. For 10 years, from Emily's childhood until she turned 18, the Miller family had been her anonymous guardians." "No," Emily shook her head violently. "That can't be true. My grandmother never told me anything. She promised to keep it a secret. It was a condition of the donation." Martha gently touched the young woman's hand. "Mrs. Emily Miller used to say that true charity must be anonymous, that when you grew up and became independent, you would be free to choose your own path. But why? Why our family?" "Because the drunk driver who killed your parents worked for one of the Miller companies. David was still a child at the time, but when he took over the business at 25, the first thing he did was locate you and ensure you continued to be supported." Emily was in shock. All those years, when she thought she had achieved everything on her own, when she was proud of her independence. "So my whole life was a lie?" "No, honey," Martha said firmly. "Your achievements, your intelligence, your kindness, none of that was bought. The money just ensured you had the opportunities you deserved." "And David? Did he know who I was when he met me at the cafe?" Martha hesitated. "No, he only found out after a few weeks. When he started to be interested in you, he asked me to investigate discreetly. That's when we discovered the connection. That's why the scholarship—" "Emily, David didn't want you to feel sorry or obligated. That's why he didn't tell you about the past. He truly fell in love with you, not the girl his family helped years ago." Emily buried her face in her hands. She felt confused, betrayed, but also strangely relieved. All her life, there had been a feeling that something didn't quite fit. How her grandmother, so poor, always managed to pay for her needs. How she had had opportunities that other children in her situation didn't. "Where is he now?" she finally asked. "In London. He flew yesterday to try and resolve Matthew's situation, but before he left he asked me to give you this." Martha pulled out a handwritten letter. "Emily, I know you're angry with me, and you have every right to be. I should have told you about our past connection, but I was afraid it would change what's growing between us. When I found out who you were, I was in shock. The girl my family helped had become the most extraordinary woman I've ever known, but I want you to know, I fell in love with Emily, the brave waitress who wasn't intimidated by me, with Emily who dreams of helping children, with Emily who makes me laugh and gives me hope. The scholarship isn't charity, it's an investment. In the future, in your career, in the difference you will make in the world. But if you decide you can't forgive me, I'll understand. I just want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. With all my love, David P.S. Matthew always asks about his dad. I will fight for him, just like I should have fought for you when I pulled away." Emily finished reading with tears in her eyes. "He left without even trying to explain himself. He thought you needed time, and that proving his love for his son was more important than his own broken heart." At that moment, Emily understood. David had chosen to be the father Matthew needed, even sacrificing his own happiness, exactly as she had chosen to distance herself from him to protect her wounded heart. Both were running away out of fear. "Martha," she said with a determined voice, "when is the next flight to London?" The woman smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." That night, Sarah helped Emily pack, while Mrs. Rodriguez prepared sandwiches for the trip. Sis, are you sure about this? Sarah asked for the 10th time. London is very far away. Sarah, for the first time in my life, I'm sure of something. Emily folded her best dress. I love him, truly, and I'm not going to lose this out of pride. What if he doesn't want to see you? Then at least I'll... No, I tried. Mrs. Rodriguez approached with an envelope. Honey, this is for the ticket. It's all my savings. Mrs. Rodriguez, I can't accept. Of course you can. True love is worth any sacrifice. The woman hugged Emily like a mother. Go get your man and bring that grandson to meet Grandma Rodriguez. At the airport, while waiting for her flight, Emily called Martha. Do you have his address in Metthe, London? I do, but Emily, there's something you need to know. Isabella is willing to negotiate, but only if David definitively renounces any rights over Matthew. Emily's heart clenched. What do you mean? David will have to choose. Fight for his son or have a personal life. Isabella made it clear that she won't accept him being in a relationship with anyone if he wants to see Matthew. Emily understood the cruelty of the situation. Isabella was using Matthew as a weapon to control David forever. Martha, she said firmly, true love doesn't require us to choose between the people we love. I'm going to London to fight for both, for David and for Matthew. As the plane took off from Miami, Emily looked out the window at the city that had always been her home. She was leaving everything familiar behind for an uncertain love, but for the first time since the humiliation with Chad, she felt courageous. She wasn't going to run from her feelings anymore. She was going to fight for them. Emily is flying to London on an impossible mission to win back David and help him get his son back. But will she arrive in time? And what surprise does destiny still hold for these two hearts? In the final chapter, get ready for the biggest surprise in this story, a discovery that will make everything make sense. Comment if you would make any sacrifice for the love of your life. London was cold and grey when Emily arrived at Heathrow Airport. She had only slept 2 hours on the flight, too nervous to rest. With just a small suitcase and the address Martha had given her, she took a taxi to the Chelsea's neighborhood. David's apartment was in an elegant but unostentatious building. Emily took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. No one answered. She rang again. Silence. Are you looking for someone? Asked an elderly lady coming out of the elevator. Yes, Mr. David Miller. Ah, the American. He left early this morning looking terrible. Looked like he hadn't slept in days. Emily sat on the building steps, determined to wait. At 4 in the afternoon, she finally saw David approaching. He walked slowly, his shoulders slumped as if carrying the weight of the world. When he saw her, he stopped abruptly. Emily? His voice was hoarse, disbelieving. What are you doing here? She stood up, her heart racing. He looked exhausted, unshaven, with red eyes. I came for you. How? David approached slowly as if she were a mirage. I thought you hated me. I thought I hated you. Until Martha told me the truth. David's face hardened. I didn't want you to find out that way. I wanted to tell you myself at the right time. And when would have been the right time, David? After I died of pride. Emily smiled sadly. I'm such a fool. You just kept taking care of me, like your family always did. No, Emily. My family took care of the orphaned child. I fell in love with the strong woman you became. He gently touched her face. Your grandmother raised you well, but who you are today has nothing to do with the money you received. David, you don't need to protect me from the truth. I can handle it. They went up to the apartment, spacious but impersonal, clearly temporary. The only personal marks were photos of Matthew scattered everywhere. How's the situation with him? Emily asked, picking up one of the photos. The boy had the same smile as his father. David poured himself a whiskey and offered her water. Complicated. Isabella wants me to sign a document renouncing all paternal rights. In return, I can see Matthew twice a year, supervised. That's monstrous. It's the price for having been an absent father. David sat heavily on the sofa. Emily, there's something I haven't told you about why Isabella really divorced me. Emily sat next to him, preparing for another revelation. When Matthew was born, I panicked. My parents died when I was 10, remember? I never had an example of a present father. I was afraid of messing everything up, so you pulled away. Worse than that, I buried myself in work because it was the only thing I knew how to do well. I left Isabella alone with a baby, working 18 hours a day, traveling constantly. His voice was heavy with guilt. When she tried to talk, I offered more money, more material security. Never what she really wanted, a present husband. And she fell in love with someone else. Charles was Matthew's teacher at play school. Attentive, affectionate, present. Everything I wasn't. David took a sip of his whiskey. Isabella tried to warn me several times that I was losing my family, but I thought I had time to fix things later. Emily felt a deep pain for him. David, you can't blame yourself forever. You made mistakes, but you can learn from them. Can I? Emily, Isabella gave me an ultimatum today. If I want any kind of relationship with Matthew, I can't get romantically involved with anyone. She says she won't expose our son to a succession of girlfriends. Emily's heart ached. She immediately understood the cruelty of the situation. She's blackmailing you. She is. But he's my son, Emily. My only chance to be a real father. They sat in silence for a long moment. Emily processed the information, feeling as if she were being punished for mistakes David had made before he met her. What if you choose Matthew? She finally asked. David looked at her with tear-filled eyes. Then I'll lose you, and I don't know if I can live with that. And what if you choose me? Then I'll lose my son forever, and you would never forgive me for that. Emily stood up and walked to the window, looking at the busy streets of London. An idea was forming in her mind. Risky, perhaps impossible, but it was the only one that could save them. David, she said, turning to him, what if we didn't have to choose? What do you mean? I want to meet Isabella. Talk to her. Mother to mother. Emily, you're not a mother. Yes, I am. The conviction in her voice surprised him. I may not have given birth, but I know what it's like to love a child unconditionally. I grew up being loved by a grandmother who raised me as her own. And if we can have a future together, Matthew will be my son too. David studied her for a long moment. It's dangerous. Isabella could use this against us. Or she could see that I'm not a threat, that I'm someone who will love and protect Matthew as much as she does. That night, they walked through the streets of London's Historic Centre, planning a strategy. David told her more. About Isabella. Isabella Clark, 30, an art teacher, only child of a wealthy family from Manchester. Intelligent, protective of Matthew, but wounded by years of emotional neglect. She's not a bad person, David explained as they had fish and chips at a pub near the Bell Tower of London. She's just protecting our son, the only way she knows how. Then I need to show her that I didn't come to threaten that protection. I came to strengthen it. The next day, Emily dressed carefully. A simple navy blue dress, subtle makeup, a respectable but not intimidating appearance. The meeting would be in a park near Matthew's school. Isabella arrived promptly at 3 in the afternoon. She was beautiful, Emily admitted, with straight brown hair and intelligent green eyes. She wore an elegant beige coat and carried a bag Emily recognized as expensive. "So, you're the American," were Isabella's first words, without bothering to greet her. "I'm Emily. Thank you for agreeing to meet me." They sat on a bench overlooking the playground, where several children were playing. Isabella maintained an upright posture, clearly defensive. "I don't know what David told you, but I'm not changing my mind," Isabella said coldly. "Matthew doesn't need any more confusion in his life." "I completely agree," Emily replied, surprising her. "Matthew needs stability, security, love, and he has that with you and Charles." Isabella frowned, clearly not expecting that answer. "Then why are you here?" "Because I also think he needs his father, and because I love David enough to fight for his happiness, even if it means sharing his heart with you both." "Share." Emily took a deep breath. It was time to reveal her true proposal, the one that was about to change all their destinies. Isabella, what if I move to London? Emily has just made the riskiest proposal of her life. Will Isabella agree to share Matthew? And what past secret is about to be revealed that connects all these lives in an impossible way? In the final chapter, prepare for the biggest surprise in this story, a discovery that will make everything make sense. Comment if you would make any sacrifice for the love of your life. Isabella looked at Emily as if she had spoken in a foreign language. Move to London? Are you crazy? Maybe, Emily admitted with a sad smile. But crazy with love. Isabella, I know you don't know me, but I want you to know something about me. And then, there in the London Park, with autumn turning the trees golden, Emily told her story. She spoke about losing her parents at 8, about the grandmother who raised her with unconditional love, about Chad and the public humiliation. She talked about her dreams of working with children, about how she wanted to honor her parents' memory by helping other orphans. When I met David, she continued, my heart was broken, without hope. He gave me back faith in true love, and now I want to reciprocate. Isabella listened in. Silence, her expression gradually softening. And David, does he know about this crazy proposal of yours? No, I said I wanted to talk to you first, to show that I'm not an opportunistic adventurer. Emily took a deep breath. Isabella, I didn't come to take your place in Matthew's life. I came to be extra support, one more person to love and protect him. And your life in the Chews? Your family, job, dreams? I can study psychology here, learn British English, work with immigrant children. Emily gently touched Isabella's hand. Isabella, your son would have 4 adults who love him unconditionally. How can that be bad for him? At that moment, a child ran towards them. It was Matthew, fresh from school, with messy hair and a radiant smile identical to his father's. "Mommy!" he cried, throwing himself into Isabella's arms. Then he noticed Emily and stopped, curious. "Who is she?" "She's a friend of Daddy's," Isabella replied, carefully observing Emily's reaction. Emily knelt down to Matthew's height. "Hi, handsome. My name is Emily. Like the hope of seeing Daddy again?" Matthew asked with the brutal honesty of children. Emily's heart broke and filled with love at the same time. Yes, exactly like that hope. Charles arrived at that moment, a man of about 35, well-trimmed beard, professor's glasses, and a gentle smile. When Isabella explained who Emily was, he was surprised but not hostile. "The famous Emily," he said in his British accent. "David talks about you a lot. You two talk." "Of course. We're civilized adults trying to raise a happy child," Charles replied, picking Matthew up. "And honestly, this boy misses his dad." That night, at a small restaurant in the Soho neighborhood, the 4 adults gathered for the most important conversation of their lives. David was nervous, not fully understanding what Emily had planned. "Emily proposed something to me today," Isabella began, after they ordered fish and chips. "And lemonade. Something I initially thought was absurd, but which makes sense now that I think about it." David looked from one to the other, confused. "What did she propose?" "That she moves to London," Charles replied, "to be near you and Matthew." "What?" David turned to Emily, shocked. "Emily, you can't abandon your life for me." "I'm not abandoning it. I'm rebuilding it around the people I love." Isabella took a sip of lemonade before continuing. "David, all these months I was afraid you'd bring someone irresponsible into Matthew's life, women only interested in your money, who would see our son as an obstacle. And now I see a woman willing to sacrifice everything for love, as much love for you as for a child she barely knows." Isabella looked directly at Emily. "And that makes me respect you." Charles placed his hand on Isabella's. "We've decided you can have shared custody of Matthew. 1 week here, 1 week in the when you go back. Alternating. Holidays." David could barely believe what he was hearing. "Seriously?" "But," Isabella raised her finger, "with conditions. Emily needs to prove she's committed to Matthew's well-being. And you, David, need to prove you've really changed." "What do you mean?" That's when Emily revealed the most surprising part of her plan. "David, I want us to work together. Your company can sponsor programs to help orphaned children here in London. I would coordinate the projects." "Emily, listen," she continued, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Imagine immigrant children in London needing psychological support and integration. We could make a difference in their lives." David looked at her as if he was seeing her for the first time. "You thought of all this in 2 days? I thought about what really matters, and what matters is love, family, and doing good in the world." 3 months later, Emily was officially living in London. She had enrolled in an intensive British English course and started working part-time at an NGO that assisted immigrant families. David rented a larger apartment in the same neighborhood as Isabella and Charles, so Matthew could easily move between the two homes. The adaptation wasn't easy. Emily missed Sarah, Mrs. Rodriguez, the familiar streets of Detroit, Miami. But every time she saw David playing with Matthew, every time the boy ran to hug her, shouting "Aunt Em," she knew she had made the right decision. The real test came on a December afternoon when Matthew came home from school crying. "What happened, my love?" Emily asked, kneeling beside him. "The kids at school say I have a weird family, 2 houses, 4 parents." Matthew sobbed. "Why can't I have a normal family?" Emily looked at David, who had just arrived, and made a decision that would change everything. "Matthew," she said softly, "come here. I want to tell you a story about a girl who also thought her family was strange." She told him about losing her parents, about being raised by her grandmother, about how David and his family had taken care of her even without her knowing. She talked about love that goes beyond blood, about families that form in the heart. "Your mum, Charles, your dad and me, we're all family because we chose each other, and that's stronger than anything, really, really. And you know what? The best families are the ones full of love, even if they're different." Matthew reflected for a moment. "So, you're like a second mom?" Emily felt tears in her eyes. "If you want, yes, I do, but without replacing Mom Isabella." "Never, my love. A child can have many people who love them." David watched the scene with his heart overflowing. At that moment, he saw that Emily had not only won his heart, but had also found her place in the family they were building together. 6 months later, on a sunny June morning, David surprised Emily with breakfast in bed, pancakes, orange juice, and a small velvet box. "Emily Jones," he said, kneeling beside the bed, "you've changed my life in every possible way. You taught me that true love is one that grows, that includes, that transforms. David, you made me a better father, a better man, a better person." He opened the box, revealing a simple yet elegant ring. "Will you marry me? Here, in the Gosseo, in the sky, wherever you want, as long as it's with me." Emily looked at the ring, then at the blue eyes of the man who had transformed her life. "Yes, but with one condition." "Which one?" "That Matthew be the best man, and that the ceremony be in Miami, so Sarah and Mrs. Rodriguez can be there." "Done." The wedding took place in October, in the same Kirkpatrick Catholic Church, where Emily had thrown away Chad's ring 2 years earlier. But this time, she was radiant, walking towards the altar, where David waited for her with Matthew by his side, both wearing matching suits. Isabella and Charles travelled from London 1 for the ceremony, and for the first time, Emily saw David's ex-wife smile at her with genuine affection. "Take good care of him," Isabella whispered during the hug after the ceremony. "And thank you for taking good care of our son." "Thank you for giving us this chance," Emily replied. Sarah was the maid of honor, crying more than the bride herself. Mrs. Rodriguez, now 58 but still strong, personally prepared the food for the reception. BBQ ribs, mac and cheese, coleslaw, and her famous apple pie. During the party in the garden of the Biltmore Hotel, Matthew approached Emily, who was sitting watching David dance with Sarah. "Aunt Em," the boy said, now 5 years old and almost as tall as his stepmother. Are you officially my second mum now? Yes, my love. Forever. And are you going to have babies too? Emily laughed, picking him up. Would you like to have a little brother or sister? Yes, but only if they're half American, half British like me now. David approached at that moment, hearing the conversation. What are my two loves talking about? Dad, Aunt Em is going to give me siblings who will speak 3 languages. David looked at Emily with a questioning expression. She just smiled and whispered, not yet, but soon. 2 years later, Emily adjusted little David Jr. in the crib, softly singing a lullaby in English that Mrs. Rodriguez had taught her. The baby, just 6 months old, had his father's blue eyes and his mother's sweet smile. Through the window of their apartment, London, she could see Matthew, now 7, playing centre soccers in the park with David. The boy spent half the week with them and half with Isabella and Charles, an arrangement that had become so natural that sometimes Emily forgot she wasn't his biological mother. How's the little prince? David asked, entering the room after his shower. Sleeping like an angel. Emily turned to hug him. And Matthew, exhausted. He scored 3 goals today. Says he's going to teach his little brother soccer when he grows up. Emily smiled. The relationship between the 2 boys was magical. Matthew had welcomed David Jr. with unconditional love, protecting him like a perfect older brother. David, she said, nestling in his arms, sometimes I still can't believe this is real. Our family, our love, our life. It's real, my love, and it gets more real every day. He kissed her forehead. Did you know Isabella commented yesterday that she's never seen Matthew so happy and balanced? Seriously? Seriously. She said having 4 adults who love him is making him a more secure and confident child. Emily thought about the irony of life. 2 years ago, she was convinced she could never trust anyone again. Today, she not only trusted David, but had learned to trust Isabella, Charles, and even herself. David, she said softly, there's something I never told you. What? That first afternoon at the cafe when you were looking at your phone at Matthew's picture, I knew. You knew what? That you were different, the way you looked at him with so much love and so much pain. I knew you had a heart capable of true love, and that's why you were interested in me? I was interested in the man who loved his son more than his own pride, in the man who was willing to fight for his family, even when everything seemed lost. David kissed her gently. I love you, Emily Miller. I love you too, my life. 3 years later, the family had grown even more. Sophia, their 2-year-old daughter, ran through the garden of the new house they had bought on the outskirts of London. Chasing Matthew and David Jr., Emily was pregnant again, this time with twins. The child psychology clinic she had opened was thriving, mainly serving immigrant families. David had expanded his business to Europe, but now worked a maximum of 8 hours a day, always prioritizing his family. Sarah had moved to London the previous year after falling in love with Mark, an American, who worked at the embassy. Mrs. Rodriguez came to visit them twice a year, always complaining that she was getting too old for so many trips, but never failing to come. Aunt Em, Matthew said one Sunday afternoon, now 10 years old and almost as tall as his stepmother, when I grow up I want a family just like ours. How so, my love? Big, mixed, full of love. He smiled. Do you think I'll get it? Emily looked around. David pushing Sophia on the swing, David Jr. trying to teach tricks to the dog they had adopted, Isabella and Charles arriving for Sunday lunch, Sarah and Mark helping in the kitchen. Matthew, she said, hugging her stepson who had become her first child, I'm sure you will, because you already know the most important thing. What? That true love has no limits. It only grows, multiplies, and transforms everything around it. That night, after everyone had left and the children were asleep, David and Emily sat in the garden of the house, as they did every night. Did you know, David said, that today marks exactly 5 years since we met? Seriously? Emily calculated mentally. You're right. 5 years since that morning at the Ocean Breeze Cafe. 5 years since my life truly began. Emily laughed. Our lives. because I was reborn that day too. David suddenly knelt in front of her, and Emily laughed. What are you doing? We're already married. Yes, but I want to renew my vows. Here, now, just us two. His blue eyes shone in the moonlight. Emily Jones Miller, I promise to love you today, tomorrow, and forever. I promise to be the husband, father, and companion you deserve. I promise to build with you a family based on love, respect, and happiness. Tears streamed down Emily's face. And I promise to love you unconditionally, David Miller. I promise to be your companion in all moments, your accomplice in dreams, your strength in difficulties. I promise that our family will always be our most precious treasure. They kissed under the stars, and Emily knew she had found not only the love of her life, but her true home. Because sometimes, when we lose everything we thought we wanted, we find everything we truly needed. This was the story of Emily and David, a journey about second chances, true love, and family chosen by the heart. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below what city you're watching us from. We want to know how this love story reached you. And if you believe in happy endings and that true love always finds a way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that go straight to the heart. Also suggest what other stories you'd like to see, stories of overcoming love and hope like this one, because in the end, we all deserve a love that sees us, values us, and helps us grow. A love that, like Emily and David's, transforms not just two lives, but an entire family. See you in the next story, dear ones.